so sorry. The more that I learned, the more that I wondered, if that makes sense. And also, it's pretty recent. It happened just last year, and I never heard a single word about it. So you will have to let me know in the comments down below if you heard anything about this case as well. Because y'all are out there true criming just as much as I am, so you hear about things that I don't hear about. This is the case of 25-year-old Joshua Saulteaux, or Saulteaux, depending on who pronounces it, and I still could be wrong. So, Joshua came from a large, close-knit family, and they were a part of the Whitefish Lake First Nation in northeastern Alberta, Canada. And nearly everyone in the Whitefish Lake Nation knew Joshua or knew someone who knew him. His mom, Natalie, remembers that he was very protective, not only of her, but of all of his family members. They were really close, Joshua and his mom, and he always made sure that she was okay and to check to make sure if she needed anything. People describe Joshua as kind and grounded. He was someone who made time for his cousins, his friends, the younger kiddos. One family member said Joshua has a good heart. He's a kind person. He would take my nieces and nephews out shopping or to the movies and things like that. Now, as I said, 25-year-old Joshua was living a quiet and simple life just like others in his community. And then one day in April of last year, 2025, Joshua stopped at a place he'd been probably 100 times before, a small convenience store in town. And he did something that I myself have even done just randomly. He picked up a scratch-off ticket. And as he stood in the store, he scratched the silver coating from the ticket and watched in disbelief as the numbers lined up. And then he had that moment where he was like, oh my God, what just happened? Joshua had just won $1 million. And of course, in a community that size, word travels fast, and news like that doesn't stay quiet for very long. Suddenly, Joshua is like this celebrity. Everywhere that he goes, he's being congratulated. And for a guy who has never had that type of money, it feels unreal. Like this opportunity to turn his life around and start over. So there's a photo from him that day that I will use as the thumbnail to this video. And he is holding this ticket and he is smiling, and you can just see like the possibilities on his face. But now, as I look at that photo, I am extremely sad. So, as we know, good fortune can be dangerous when word travels fast in a small town. And for Joshua, it did not take long for that money to start to feel a bit like a burden. He was a quiet guy, and he didn't really want all this attention. He just wanted to turn his life around and have some peace. Well, of course, that's never gonna happen. He didn't want to leave home completely. He wanted a place of his own, though. So he bought a Forest River RV trailer, and he parked it right beside his mom's house on his grandparents' property, where a few other family members were staying. So this is his version of gaining some independence, close enough to everybody that he cared about, but far enough away that he had his own little corner of the world. And at first, things seemed really good. was not lined up at 25. But he had money in the bank, his own place, his family close by, and a fresh start ahead. But people began showing up out of the woodwork, as you may expect. Some people he knew, some people he didn't know, and his friends started to notice as well. These new faces, the unexpected phone calls that he started to receive. And suddenly it felt like Joshua was kind of in the middle of this whirlwind that even he didn't understand. Now, in Canada, they do not hide who the winners of the lottery are. So when he held up that giant check for $1 million, it was right there. His name, his face. He couldn't hide from the cameras or the internet or anybody. If you saw the picture, you knew who he was, and you knew how wealthy he became overnight. It's actually written into the rules in the lottery in Canada. Provincial lottery corporations are required to share your name, where you're from, and usually a photo. According to them, it's to prove that the games are fair and transparent. I get it, but I hate it, but I don't get it, if that makes sense. Without naming these very real people as winners, it could seem like the system is rigged and there's no real winners or winners at all. It's just a way for them to get your money, right? And it makes sense on paper, but I myself have always said I would never tell people if I won anything, because it literally turns your world upside down. Overnight, your face, your name, your hometown, everything's public. Everybody knows you got money. Everybody knows where to find you. People come crawling out of the woodwork. I have a friend that is, or was, famous, and he had to take classes on, people trying to dupe him, because they literally come out of nowhere, swearing they know you and trying to take your money. So in a few provinces like British Columbia and Ontario, they have started to soften these rules some, listing only a first name and last initial. But complete privacy is still basically impossible unless you can prove that there's a real threat to your safety. Now, here in the United States, that's a little bit different, but this is why financial advisors tell these lottery winners to slow down before claiming a big prize. Get a lawyer, get a financial planner, or a public relations strategy person, because once this news breaks, privacy is pretty much out the window. Now, the United States, as I said, it's different. They do let some winners remain anonymous in specific states. Not in Illinois, but states like Texas, Delaware, Kansas, and Maryland do allow winners to stay incognito. But Joshua did not get that chance. He's 25 years old. He's living this quiet life on this reserve in northern Alberta, and the news of this $1 million spread like wildfire. And it may have seemed like life-changing good fortune, but really it kind of put a target on his back. And maybe that's why in the last few days before Joshua disappeared, people remember him acting kind of different, nervous and uneasy, as though he already knew that being lucky could also bring danger to his life. So not long after he won this money, his family started to notice a change in him. His mother remembers seeing him not long before he went missing. He had dropped her off at a relative's house, told her that he loved her, and driven home. She said he was jumpy and uneasy. He had told people that he did not feel safe. And Natalie said that after his lottery win, people started coming around him. And she believes that maybe he just chose to hang around the His younger brother Eric and cousin Javier were also there, staying up late that night. And Eric remembers hearing Joshua pacing around upstairs, restless, agitated. He couldn't quite calm down. And Eric recalls that after Joshua told him that people were coming for him, he, as a brother, went outside and he looked around, but there was nothing. No cars, no people, nothing. Around 4 in the morning, Javier says that he saw Joshua walking away from the trailer. He watched him walk away, and these were the final moments that anyone in Joshua's life saw him alive. When the sun eventually rose, Joshua was gone. His RV sat empty, parked near the south side entrance to the Whitefish Lake First Nation, just off of Boyne Lake Road, about 180 kilometers northeast of Edmonton. His family tried to reach him later on that day, but they couldn't. And word spread fast that he wasn't answering. Someone called his uncle, Francis, at work to tell him Joshua was missing, and Francis dropped everything that he was doing at work and drove straight home to the property, hoping that this was just a misunderstanding. But a year later, we know that it wasn't. When Francis opened Joshua's RV, he was absolutely shocked at what he found. It was empty, he said, and there was blood all over this trailer. And it is true that whatever happened in that trailer left a ton of blood behind that really shouldn't have been there. So, where did it come from? And where is Joshua? So Francis and the rest of Joshua's family start immediately and frantically searching. They are desperate for any sign of where Joshua may have gone. People from the community rallied, they showed up, they searched everywhere. Francis said that he spent weeks driving around looking, and there was just nothing. People combed through woods and fields and ditches, anywhere that Joshua may have walked or even been taken. Every path ended the same, with nothing. No one could find him. No footprints that made sense. No cell phone, no truck, no trace of him at all. Just the RV, the blood inside of it, and his family with a million questions. When Joshua's family reported him missing, the Goodfish Lake RCMP released only a short statement that read that 25-year-old Joshua Saulteaux had not been seen or heard from since the early hours of May 5th, and that there was concern for his safety and well-being. That's it. That's all that they said. Just a couple lines that really didn't do anything to appease his family or the community. However, behind the scenes, investigators did move quickly to open a case. The RCMP confirmed that the blood found inside the RV belonged to Joshua. But what exactly happened in there and where he may have gone, we still don't know. Corporal Matthew Howell from the Alberta RCMP later tells the news that more than 60 people had been interviewed in connection with this case, and that included several polygraph tests. But whatever they have uncovered so far, they are not telling the public. Search crews from Goodfish Search and Rescue and St. Paul Search and Rescue have also combed the area on foot with dogs, and they have brought in drones. Hundreds of hours went into looking for any trace of Joshua, but they found nothing. Investigators start working through the two main possibilities, and we all know where they're going, right? One theory is that he may have left voluntarily, either disoriented or afraid, and then succumbed to the conditions of the his family strongly believes is that he was targeted because of his lottery win. To them, the blood inside the trailer just made it impossible to believe that he would have just walked away and never returned. Joshua's uncle Francis said that the longer the search went on, the less urgency he saw from authorities. He said that the RCMP did not come to inspect the RV or speak directly with Joshua's family until 2 days later. They showed up, but after a week or two, it felt like it just didn't really matter to them. They come around here and there, but they haven't done a whole lot. Francis states that Joshua's truck was in the shop at the time that he disappeared. Another reason that his family doesn't believe he just disappeared on his own. He had been planning to start work with his Uncle Francis on the oil rigs. He did not owe anyone money. He wasn't involved in any sort of trouble. He just wasn't that kind of guy. Now, for many people in the Whitefish Lake First Nation, Joshua's disappearance stirred deeper frustration. A sense of deja vu, familiar to too many Indigenous families whose loved ones go missing. Francis said, as an Indigenous community, it seems like all of our sisters and brothers go missing, and everyone just turns a blind eye. You have to wonder if my nephew had blonde hair and blue eyes, if things might be different. You should care for your people, not just on voting day. Corporal Howell has maintained that the investigation is ongoing and all possibilities are still being explored. He states, "We are still investigating, following up with some tips and conducting forensic examinations." But he acknowledged that the Major Crimes Unit is no longer actively handling this case, even though Joshua remains listed as a missing person. And for Joshua's family, this is not enough, and I feel the same. They don't talk about charges or suspects. They just want him home. Now, Joshua is still missing, but this is absolutely not the end of this case. I feel like to really understand what happened, we have to go back 4 years prior. It was January of 2021, and the police were called to a property after a woman who lived in a basement apartment called 911 in a panic. According to the agreed statement of facts later read in court, this woman reported that strangers had brought a badly beaten and bloodied woman down into her suite. Moments later, the group returned that same woman back upstairs, where another tenant saw a man who was also beaten and tied up in one of the bedrooms. Now, when the police arrived that night, this apartment house is eerily quiet because they probably knew that the cops were coming. The suspects were gone, but the violence left behind was impossible to miss. On the main floor, officers found Daniel Grandboy deceased. His hands were bound, and he was wrapped in a carpet. In another room, they found Deidre Aldridge, tied with an electrical cord and also wrapped in a carpet. Both victims had been stabbed repeatedly, and investigators said the number and nature of the wounds painted a picture of extreme cruelty. And, hold on, okay, just stick with me. The house itself looked as though someone had tried to clean it up in a hurry. There was a mop, a bucket of bloody water, and garbage bags filled with rags and paper towels scattered around the scene. Police would later piece together a web of DNA and witness evidence linking the crime back to 5 people, 2 of which were Joshua and his mother, Natalie. Natalie had been renting the main floor suite in this apartment house, and she and her boyfriend at the time the main suspects in this case. Police charged all 5 suspects with 2 counts of first-degree murder, although the case itself would take years to wind through the court system. Both Joshua and Natalie maintained that they were not the ones that committed the murders. Natalie did admit to helping the killers, whoever they may be, with cleaning up the scene and trying to help hide the bodies. In the end, no one was convicted of the actual murder itself. Joshua and his mother Natalie pled guilty to lesser charges of accessory to murder, and both served brief prison sentences. Natalie in particular has been publicly remorseful for her part in what happened, and she has apologized to the families. She partially blamed the fact that addiction and domestic violence caused her to spiral out of control. Despite the convictions, the families of Grandboy and Aldridge state that they still don't know who actually carried out these killings, who swung the weapon, or who made the decision to turn this house into a torture chamber, basically. And they might never know. Now, as for Joshua, this past never really went away. It was big news when it all went down, especially because of the light sentences. So, when his face shows up in the newspaper years later, smiling with a giant $1 million lottery check, some people remembered those earlier headlines. And his mother would say that she couldn't help but wondering if that violent history somehow followed him. Someone looking for revenge when they saw how Joshua's luck had changed. So after the initial shock of Joshua's disappearance kind of wears off, rumors start flying. In small communities, we know they spread fast, and the facts are scarce. For Joshua's family, every whisper, every theory feels like salt rubbed in a wound that they can't heal. And I believe there are 2 main possibilities in this case. First, Joshua walked away and never looked back. I don't believe that. His family doesn't believe that. He left behind everything that mattered to him. And his phone and his wallet. How is he getting access to the money then? Why isn't he touching it? Because you know they're watching that. His family says he wouldn't have just disappeared, especially without telling his mother where he was going. And I would assume that nobody's accessed that bank account. That would be proof of life. The second theory is darker, and kind of 2 theories really, that he was targeted either because of his $1 million lottery win or because of his past. Natalie said that she cannot shake the feeling that someone decided he didn't deserve his new life, and maybe that the people who crossed paths with her and Joshua years earlier had never forgotten them. During a recent documentary shoot, Natalie was caught saying something while her microphone was still live. In that moment, she shared a raw and unguarded theory that people may have moved him around between different houses, hurting him and yet realizing too late that they had gone too far. She later told reporters that she just wasn't sure what to believe anymore, and that someone out there knows something and they just won't talk. She also says that when she went searching for Joshua herself, she came across something that she'll never forget, and it freaked me out. She believed she found what were bones and bloodstains and jars filled with a liquid that looked a lot like blood in a house near Whitefish Lake. Now, she did report this to the police, but I couldn't find any confirmation that they even looked into it, let alone found any evidence of foul play. Now, the RCMP states that every tip is being checked, and they have found nothing to substantiate any claims of a crime. But I think we all kind of know that that's just what they say in cases like this. Joshua's uncle Francis still drives around on dirt roads and back roads in the community looking for any trace of his nephew. Sometimes, he said, you just get this feeling that you're supposed to go out there, but he's nowhere. It's like he vanished from this earth. For Joshua's younger brother Eric and cousin Javier, those final hours just play on a constant repeat. Joshua pacing and panicked and saying people were after him. Javier being the last one to watch him walk away just before dawn. They both wonder if they had stopped him or calmed him down or followed him or done something different. That we'd be in a different situation today, and I would not be talking to you about Joshua's case. Natalie is certain, though, that Joshua did not just leave. She said, he would never do that to me. He loved me and his family too much. So his family believes that he was caught up in something larger by people that saw him as a target or the ghosts of the past that refused to stay buried. But they're still waiting for somebody, anybody, to tell them what happened inside Joshua's RV that night. People still talk about Joshua in the present tense, like he might just walk through the door any day now, flashing his big smile and cracking a quiet joke as though the last year just never happened. But deep down, most of them know better. His family says they're not looking for arrests or headlines anymore. They just want answers, a place to lay flowers and quietly grieve. His uncle said, I believe that he's not with us anymore. We don't even care if somebody did it. We just want to find his body and lay him to rest. He deserves that much. His mother, Natalie, said that the quiet moments hit the hardest. It's like I can't move forward. I feel stuck. So, yes, I want to acknowledge that Joshua was involved in a horrific crime in 2021 that left 2 people dead. Those 2 victims, Deidre Aldridge and Daniel Gramboy, deserve to be remembered and mourned. Joshua served the sentence that was handed down to him, and yes, his past was complicated, like a lot of us. He did not deserve to vanish without any answers. Justice for him doesn't erase what came before, but it does remind us that every life and every loss deserves to be treated with care and truth. And sadly, Deidre and Daniel's families are still waiting for answers, just like Joshua's. If you or anyone you know has any information regarding the disappearance of Joshua Saulteaux, please contact the Goodfish Lake RCMP at 780-645-8888, or you can make an anonymous report through Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477, numbers I will leave listed in the description box down below. So let's talk about what I think, okay? I think somebody hurt this kid for his money. And I think that they did a darn good job of it because he was never found. I think that they attacked him in his RV and took him away. And I think they were sorely disappointed when they couldn't find his bank account information because he had the foresight to hide it in his grandparents' house. I have to know why I couldn't find anything about phone records as far as was someone contacting him and threatening him, or were these people just showing up and threatening him? He knew someone was coming, and why he didn't necessarily share this with his family, with his brother, with his cousin Javier, who I'm sure they call Javi, but so-and-so keeps popping up, and, you know, I think they're trying to get at me for my money or whatever. I do not think that he ran away from his family. First of all, his truck's in the shop, so how did he get away? Second of all, the money has never been touched, so either whoever tried to steal it from him didn't get it, or he didn't run away and just live another life because he'd be using that money to do so. Hello. And I hate that this is yet another Indigenous case that did not get national coverage. I hate that his uncle is partially right. If Joshua had been blonde and blue-eyed, it may have gotten national coverage. I don't understand why the color of our skin or our race or nationality or whatever makes a difference in how people look for us. And as a Caucasian person, it horrifies me because I would want my neighbor or my cousin or my friend to be looked after just as well as anyone else. And that is part of the reason that I still have this channel. Part of the reason I try to bring notice to these cases is maybe you never knew Joshua's face, but maybe he's wandering around the town that you live in, and you see him on the thumbnail, and you're like, oh, I know that guy. I know it's super far-fetched and absolutely crazy to think that I could have anything to do with anything like that, but man, wouldn't that be amazing if something could be solved from YouTube or something like that. That's why I love that Adventures with Purpose website channel, because they go out and search for people and they're actually finding people, and I find that incredible. Anyway, thank you guys so much for being here. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I will see you soon for another one. I am considering doing Spooktober early and doing spooky stuff from September through October because I have so much stuff on the back burner waiting. I know I have 4 cases at least that I've marked for Spooktober, and I still have like spooky stuff in each state and spooky magazines and all sorts of stuff. So if you're still listening and you're into that, definitely drop me like a Halloween emoji down below so that I know to get on it so I can start filming it now, because we're, 2 weeks into August already, so that I can have that stuff for you. Anyway, I'm gonna shut up now. I love you guys so much. I'll see my patrons later on, and I'll see you guys soon. Goodbye.